So welcome. We're going to just run you through our new community action map. Thank you for showing interest. I'm going to tell you what it is and do a demo and have time for questions. So why have we created a community action map? Well, ourselves as Sheffield Rotherham Wildlife Trust and partner groups through Nature Recovery Sheffield and also Nature Recovery Rotherham in the next phase, want to harness and understand about all the amazing community action there is going on out there. And if we thought that if we could map, and talking to others as well, this has come from a lot of other people through consultation, if we could map the action that you and others are taking, it really will capture that amazing work that you're doing at the local level, for a number of reasons. Is to enable individual people or other groups to see what is going on in their local area and how they could get involved. So you'll be able to see, oh, is there a group in my area? What are they doing? Contact details. If not, how could we start a new group perhaps, or join up with a neighbouring group? And also for groups and individuals to see how your actions are contributing to the bigger picture, such as 30% of land and water great for nature by 2030, which is one of Trust's ambitions, which fits with national and international targets as well. And though, obviously the work done by communities and individuals will be also complement work done by, say, big landowners and authorities and government agencies and big NGOs and that sort of thing. But it's about bringing, capturing some of the stuff that's going on at the community and individual level. And also to make it easier for you to then see that you're part of a community all taking action together across Sheffield and Rotherham. And that really is what Nature Recovery Sheffield is about. It's about that sort of movement of people all taking action for nature. And so what is the community action map? Well, it is actually geographical information system based map, but it's a relatively simple one compared to some of the other GIS work that Fiona and other colleagues do. And she's going to run through this in more detail, so don't worry that you have to remember all this, but this is just an overview to show that you can add area-based habitat actions, such as habitat creation and maintenance, or specific action for species, such as bird boxes, swift boxes, that type of things, hedgehog highways, tree planting, all sorts of things, plus the details of the local group and upcoming events. And Fiona will go through these in more detail. I've just sort of zoomed out a bit to show some of those things on the menu on the left that can be added and the type of actions. And this is sort of broadly what it looks like. So at the moment, it's quite sparse because we've only just really recently launched it. Some students first developed it, and then Fiona's done quite a lot of work on it, and we have tested it out a little bit with some of the Nature Recovery Sheffield steering group members who've had a bit of a play and added some data and come back with some feedback and refinements. And this is what we're calling the sort of beta phase of release, where we're wanting groups in particular to have a go at entering data and tell us how it works, what you think, if there's any refinements still. I know some of you individuals tonight, and that's absolutely fine. We're aiming this phase at groups just while we're still working through some of the sort of personal detail information that might be displayed on the map, and how we, if you're in a group and you've got a public facing email address, that's quite straightforward. If you haven't, if you've just got personal email address, for example, we're just working through that. So please stay and watch the demo for that. And then when we do roll out to individuals, you know what you're doing. And you can still look at the map in the meantime and obviously see what is going on in your area, which groups are there. So still value as an individual. So very brief. If you're taking action nature in your community, this map is for you. And if you want to find out what people are doing in your area, this map is also for you. Just to say, it is found on the Nature Recovery Community Toolkit. It's one of the tabs, and that's the web address. Ian will pop some of these in the chat in a minute. And as I say, please check it out. But I'm going to pass over to Fiona now, who will go through it in more detail. So I'm going to stop sharing. Over to you, Fiona.
Brilliant, thank you. If I switch over and share my screen. Yeah, thanks, Nikki. That's a great introduction. So I'm going to give you kind of a demonstration of the map. So I'm going to start with firstly how you can find it. So I'm going to show you how you can locate it through our website. I'll then give a kind of introduction, how you can navigate around the map, explore what's already on there, and then most importantly at the end, how you can be adding your own community actions for nature to the map. So I think the link has already been posted in chat to go to our kind of toolkit page. So when you open that, you'll see this landing page for our Nature Recovery Community Toolkits. And if you scroll down, there'll be an option here, Community Action Map. And it gives you, again, a bit more information about the action for map. More importantly, this button at the top takes you straight through to the map. It should look a little bit like this. So once you come on, you'll have this landing page, which gives you a brief introduction, a great handy link here to a short, about 7-minute video guide of how you can interact with the map. So it's a great recap along with this recording if you need a reminder. We also have our terms and conditions of the map, which just outlines how we expect you to use the map and also how we'll be using the data that you submit. So once you've read through and you're happy to the terms and conditions, just need to give it a tick in the bottom corner and click OK, and then you're in. I will central us over Sheffield. So this is the map for Community Action for Nature. So to kind of navigate around the map, if you left click and hold, that allows you to pan around the map so you can explore the areas. You can zoom in and out either with your mouse scroll wheel, or we do have buttons in this top left corner, which also allows you to zoom in and out. If you ever want to come back to this overall kind of home page, this default view, underneath the zoom button, so you have home button, if you click that, that zooms you all the way out and kind of brings you to an overview. So this is a kind of a base default, also helpful if you ever get a little bit lost. As well as being able to kind of navigate and scroll around the map yourself, we have a search bar down in the top corner. That's a great way to quickly zip to a specific location. So for example, if I put in our office postcode, that's definitely the one I want to go to, it takes us all the way straight to there. So this, you can see our Wildlife Trust offices here. We have this kind of OS style base map as the default, and I think it's kind of the best background if you are exploring around the map. But through our feedback, it was suggested that it would be useful to have a satellite imagery as an option. It's really useful when you're adding your own data. So you can switch that base map if you so choose. So our button here for 4 squares, if you hover over, will say base map gallery. And if you select that button, we have a couple of options. So here you have aerial satellite map. If I select that, we then switch to the satellite imagery, which if you zoom in, is just a little bit more detail when you're trying to look and find specific locations when you're adding your actions for nature. To switch back, you simply need to switch back to the OS star map. And it might just take a couple of minutes to switch through depending on your internet connection, unfortunately. There we go, I'll switch to this one. So the final kind of button for navigating around the map is this one at the end, which if you hover over says near me. This is a great button and a great tool to look at what's going on in your local area. So if you select the button, you have a search function just like you did at the top. So again, if I put in our office's address, then with the slider, you can select the radius search for the area. So I'm going to leave it at 5 miles. So within kind of 5 miles of our Wildlife Trust offices, we have had 6 community events and 5 community groups, which if I select on Nature Recovery Groups, you can see all the groups and how far away from your location. So again, this is a great tool to have a snapshot of what's going on in your local community, and as more records get added to the map, you'll be able to see all of these as they get entered. If you ever need kind of a recap of what's going on while you're using the map, we have this About function button in the top toolbar, which gives you a kind of a quick overview of how you can navigate the map, what the different buttons do, and what the tabs do as well. So you always have that reference guide within the map itself if you ever need to have a look. So now we know kind of how we can navigate around the map, can explore some of the data that's going in. So any of the points within the area and any of the areas that have been entered, you can select on one and it will give you a pop-up which brings you information of what's going on. So this event that happened in September was a nature recovery walk through Greener City Heritage. So that allows you to have a bit more information about the community action itself. And these blue points are the nature recovery groups. So if you have put in which community group you're with, I select here, we've got Greener Green Hill, and it's a great place to give a bit more description of what your community group is doing. You also have the ability to put social media links and website links. So if someone was looking around what's going on in the area, they've got those links to directly to you. So as well as exploring the map, there's lots of different colours and shapes, which might be a little bit unclear of what they are. So as I start to kind of explain these 4 maps, I'm going to start in a bit of a random order. I'm going to start with legend. So this 3rd tab here shows you what all of those different colours and symbols mean. So within the map, there are 4 layers that you can record your community actions for nature. We have 1A, which is your point data. So these are the records that are specific to a species, might be a bird box, a hedgehog home, kind of a toad crossing. You then have 1B, which is your conservation actions that are an area. So if you're doing general maintenance work on your local community site, whether you have a local litter picking in your local park. We then have an option for community events. So if you're running a community event, you can log this on the map and people will be able to find it. If it's an upcoming event, it'll be shown up in orange on the map, or if it's an event that's happened in the past, it will show up in black. And then finally, as I mentioned earlier, we have these blue points, which are the nature recovery groups. These are all the local community groups that are taking action for nature across Sheffield and Rotherham. There's also a couple of other layers and information that could be useful and we wanted to include in the map. So we've got local wildlife sites and we've also got SSI areas as well. If you just wanted to focus in on a specific piece of information, you can turn on or off these different layers in this tab, which says Layers List. So this has tick boxes, which allows you to turn on or off information. So if the map gets a little bit busy or you just want to focus in on specific sets of information, you can do that. So if I just wanted to see all the nature recovery groups across Sheffield and Rotherham, I can turn off all of these layers and really just clearly see and focus in on those nature recovery groups. We have 2 layers that you might have noticed at the bottom, which weren't turned on, and they are turned off as a default. And they're a way for people to, or another way, should I say, of exploring your local community, but not everyone would want them kind of in the first instance. So if I turn them on, we have Sheffield Local Area Committees, which just highlights those different areas. And again, you can explore what's happening within those different committees, and the same again for wards. But that's not something everyone wants to see all of the time, so we've kept them as turned off as default. So you can turn on and off layers as a whole, but you can also actually explore within the layer itself. So your second option, your filter, allows you to search for specific things or terms. So if I was looking at maybe just all of the bird boxes that have been put in across Sheffield and Rotherham, I select that activity in the filter for conservation action points and then turn on the filter, and you can see that some of those points disappeared and you've just got all of these bird boxes that have been installed down across Althorpe. It's really nice to see so many that have been already recorded. Again, this might be a great way to filter through specific events that's going on in the area. If you wanted to know if there was any nature walks, for example, going across, goes to the filter for community events. In event name, I could type in walk and turn on the filter. And then again, the events are filtered to just all those that have nature walk in the title. And again, we have this from Greener City Heritage for a nature walk. Unfortunately, it's in black, which obviously means it's a past event, but as more events get inputted and we get more population, we'll be able to explore what's going on. So that's a quick whistle-stop tour of how you can navigate and explore the map itself. But what we really want you to do is to be recording the action for nature that you're taking. So this first tab, the last one I'm explaining, is your add data. So as I mentioned, there are the 4 layers and they're highlighted by a star. So within the layers list, we've got the star highlighting these 4 community action for natures lists, and they reflect here as well. So it's always good to just take a moment to think about what action you are taking and which layer it could best fit. So if it's an action for a specific species, examples we're giving is swift boxes or bird boxes, you'd need to put it in 1A, community conservation action points. This is also if you're planting like a single tree as well. 1B is for an area. So as mentioned earlier, if you were doing some habitat creation work or if you were planting, say, an orchard in your local park, that would best going in 1B. If you have a community event, that needs to go in layer 2. And then finally, if you want to put a record of where your nature recovery group is, you can put that in 3. So if I give an example of, say, we've got some habitat creation work we're doing down at our offices, I can select 1B. It highlights in blue to say that you've selected that area. As you move your mouse across to the central map, it says click to start drawing. What I'm actually going to do is use the search bar to quickly find our offices. Saves me having to pan around the map. And then zoom into the specific location I want to add. And then start with a left click the points of the area. There we go. Left click. And for an area, you're drawing the corners of kind of the area you want to highlight. So I'm going to do all of these corners and double click to complete. And now this area is shown up in green, and this is the area I'm going to be adding to the map. If you're using any of the other 3 layers, so the points, events, or nature recovery groups, that would be just a single click for the location, and a small kind of bullseye in this green colour would show up. So very similar, no matter which layer you're adding. In this left-hand bar, you'll notice that it's slightly changed. So there's some information that we want you to input to help us with recording what action you're taking. So the first question is, who are you? So whether you're a community group or a place of worship, we're obviously an organisation as Sheffield and Rotherham Wildlife Trust. So that's the option I'm going to select. Next, we want to know what community group you're part of. So I'm going to quickly put Sheffield and Rotherham Wildlife Trust. And then what activity, what action you are taking. So we are doing some habitat creation work. Wherever possible, we'd ask you to use the pre-selected categories. But if the action you're taking really doesn't fit any of them, we do have another option down at the bottom, and then a new pop-up box, which is free-form text, and you're able to type in whatever action you're taking. But if it's a best fit for one of the pre-existing ones, we do recommend that you use them. So it's habitat creation. That's the one I'm going to select. You have a box to have a description to give more detail of what you're working. So I can put wildflower planting. And you can give as much detail as you like. I think you've got about 1,000 characters, so not too long, but enough to give a good description. And then you have a start date, so when this action started. So we started work a couple of weeks ago. And if possible, a completion date. So we finished it at the end of last week. The start date and end date aren't essential information. So if you don't have that, don't worry, you don't have to include it. But if you do have, the more information you include, it helps us paint a clearer picture of what's going on across the area. If it's something like a litter pick that you happen monthly, you can record whether it's a recurring event. That's just something that we've done as standalone, so I select no. And then finally, completion status. Again, if it's a piece of work that you want to record that's ongoing and in progress, you have the option. But if it's just a standalone piece of work that's been completed, you select completed. The final box at the bottom is the option to add attachments. So you have any photos that you want to share of the work you've been doing. Another great example of attachment is if you have an event flyer for the community event you're running, that's a great place to include. Once you are happy with the information and the area, click save. And give it a couple of minutes. And now we have our habitat creation that has been added to the map. And all of that information that we have kind of included in the left-hand bar is now here for you to see. I'll give another quick example, as it's slightly different than some of the others, of a nature recovery group. So if you're kind of a member of a nature recovery group that's not added on the map, you can add the location to kind of shout about where you are on the work that you're doing. If you have a central location, you can use that as your point, or if you work across an area, kind of like such as the Greener Green Hill group, they kind of put their pin in the centre of the patch that they work under. So whichever fits works for your community group the best. So I'm just going to quickly put one in Norfolk Park. So again, you have the option to, well, you need to put in what group name it is, what you are, who you are, and a description of the work you do and the work that you carry out. As I mentioned earlier, you have option to put in your social media links and your websites. And if you so choose, you can put in a community group email. I would do stress that this should be a kind of an email address that's generic for your community group. Please don't put any of your own personal email addresses into this map. If you have chosen to put in an email address, I'm going to start typing mine. We have this box open up at the bottom, which asks you whether you're happy for your email address to be included in the map or not. If you select yes, then your map will be visible in the pop-up, such as here for the Sheffield Rotherham Wildlife Trust in the map, so anyone will be able to view it. If you select no, then that will be hidden from the map and not visible by anyone apart from the administrators on the map, which is a few handful of members of staff at the Sheffield and Rotherham Wildlife Trust. But this is optional, so you don't have to at all. But if you do include an email address, you have the option to sign up to the Nature Recovery Sheffield mailing list and the Nature Recovery Rotherham mailing list as well. So as we mentioned earlier, this is a kind of a beta launch. So we really want you to give your feedback, start using the map, exploring and navigating and adding your own records and telling us what's worked, what isn't working, and maybe any suggestions. We're looking at a way that you can give that feedback. It's possibly going to be a Google form, so kind of watch this space and then we'll be sending that out to you. And one thing I do need to mention at the moment is because we are in the beta launch, unfortunately, we can't support any edits once a record has been submitted to the map, which I appreciate is a little bit inconvenient at the moment, but we wanted to make sure that we were able to support that in a secure way, so making sure that we don't leave ourselves open to any unwanted edits. So we are looking at how we can support edits within the map, although I don't have a timescale of when that will be available. But in the meantime, I have my email address here in the Add Data tab, and you can contact me for any edits that you make. But it's always good to just have a second kind of glance over the data and records that you're submitting, checking for spelling mistakes and details before you click submit. I think that's a whistle-stop tour. Nikki, is there anything I've missed or anything you'd like to add?
Is it worth just touching on, is it easiest to do it on a PC or a tablet? I know somebody tried it on their phone and found it a bit too small. So what's the easiest way?
So this map is supported on nearly all platforms, so computer, tablet or phone, but it is recommended, especially when you're adding records, to use either a tablet or a computer, just you have that slightly bigger screen so you can both view the map on the right-hand side and be able to add in all of the records details on the left-hand side. But it is supported on all platforms, so it's what you're most comfortable with, but possibly a tablet or a computer would be kind of preferential.